Hi guys. So I'm going to go through my sketches. Um, Starting with number one. The first one has religious symbolism to it. One of the characters, Roy Betty, you'll be hearing about him a lot in this video. Um, One of the things that he does towards the end of the movie is he pretty much impales his hand with a nail, which is straight up Jesus and symbolism. Um, at that time, he has a turn of character. The beginning and the middle of the movie, he's a very violent character. Um, Also a very emotional character, but towards the end, he kind of has this shift. So the nail going into the title and kind of having either metal or glass kind of breaking from it and sort of like where the E is showing and U over here, it would have a different type of font. Number two is pursuit. A lot of the characters are pursuing other characters, and they also intertwine a lot with one another. So just showing that energy and showing how much movement is involved in this movie. Number three is nativity. A, a lot of the characters, they want things to go a certain way and they don't. Um, for Deckard, the main, you would call him the main character. Um, he retired from being a Blade Runner. Blade Runners are pretty much those that retire the replicants, the fake humans, by killing them. He pretty much retired from that life, but then he's dragged back into it because he was one of the best. Um, but that doesn't go exactly well for him. And then you kind of have the replicants. They only have a 4-year lifespan, so they don't really get to experience life because they're treated like slaves by humans. So a part of this movie is the replicants go to the creator and ask him for extra life, and they don't get it. So it's showing that you can't really get everything you ask for. Life is shades of gray. Number four is slaves. So if the Tyrell Corporation, they have these giant pyramids. The Tyrell Corporation is like the evil corporation in the movie. They have these pyramids, and they are more Babylonian than Egypt. So if you take it from that angle, you can pretty much go to the mythology of the Babylonian pantheon. And in kind of like the human creation myth, humans were created to be slaves to the Babylonian gods. So if you kind of turn that on its head for the Blade Runner movie, then you can see the humans in place of the gods and the replicants in place of the human slaves. So before I leave that, I was kind of having like the font in the pyramid kind of under that pressure of being slaves and kind of being tortured by being enclosed in that space. So number five is corruption. Uh, the society in Blade Runner is very corrupt. It's corrupt with lust, just wrath. Wrath is definitely a big one because everyone's just so violent. Lust and greed is another one because you just see corporations just having advertisements everywhere. So one of the replicants in the movie, she has this fake snake that looks real. It's also a replicant snake. Um, so I was thinking the snake could bite the the title and kind of spread like either a glitch effect or maybe like corrosion, showing how corrupt everything has gotten in society. Number six is forgiveness. So Roy Betty, the guy I was talking about who put the nail in his own hand, he kind of he kind of forgives himself. You kind of see that religious symbolism come back in those tones. Um, and Deckard, the main character at that point in the movie, he's hanging off the side of a building. And Roy could easily just either kick him off or pick him up and like just choke him out, whatever he wants. But Roy kind of has this like moment where he goes, you understand now, like the fear of living such a short life, the fear of being a slave to others. So he picks Deckard up off the side of the building and saves him. And this is like moments before his 4 years are about to go up and, Roy is about to die. He kind of forgives Deckard for, because Deckard's going around killing his replicant friends. Roy pretty much forgives him. And so with this, I wanted to show kind of like the dust coming off of the end of the title, showing kind of this more pureness to it. Number 7 is more simple. The movie is very violent, very graphic and violent. So this is just simply having the title really beaten up and having wires and everything coming out from it. Number 8 is oppression, like I was saying earlier, greed with advertising. You see a lot of eye symbolism everywhere. I'll talk about eyes later on, but like right now, a lot of eyes are seen as in watching over. It's very dystopian. I can't say the word, but it's like the government and big corporations really watch over everything. So I have the eyes within the title, just showing that there's nowhere to hide. All seeing, all knowing. Number 9 is responsibility. So it's kind of like a parallel to Frankenstein's monster. So Dr. Tyrell, the head guy and Tyrell Corporation, he created the replicants. He didn't really have another fail-safe other than the 4 years and implanting false memories, which kind of help with the replicants' emotions so they don't go too wild. But in this movie, he ends up dying to Roy Betty, one of the replicants that he made. And it's kind of similar to Frankenstein, how he didn't take responsibility for his monster and how the monster ended up catching Frankenstein and killing him. So you can see that as something similar. Number 10 is free will. So as I was saying, like the end of the movie, you have a lot of stuff happening. Because Roy pretty much forgives Deckard and helps him from not falling off the side of a building, he kind of gives them this free will to go back and kind of start new. Because Deckard throughout this movie has kind of been learning how to become more human, and Roy has his monologue at the end where he's talking about like fleeting memories and just appreciating life. And it kind of is the apple of the Garden of Eden to Deckard. And it's kind of like, I gave you the second life as I'm dying. So that's where I kind of went with that. And it's kind of like parallel with Paradise Lost, which pretty much tells the story of Lucifer and tempting Adam and Eve to eat the apple. Number 11, oppression and slavery. So the Tyrell Corporation is symbolized by an owl. So I was thinking having owl talons to kind of come and crush the title so it would feel oppressed, pretty much. about that. Number 12 is memories. So a lot of times replicants, the way they retain memories or they keep memories is with photographs. So I pretty much just have the title split up in these photographs. I was thinking I could do them with different types and then maybe have some of them glitched out. Because for replicants, all of their memories pretty much are false. They're not their own memories that they have when they're born. So it can cause kind of like a crisis, and I actually have one for that later. So I was thinking some of them could be glitchy or some of them could be faded. Number 13, we go back to that ending scene I keep talking about. um, so when Roy dies, he has a dove in his hands, which is kind of left field, but when you think about all the other religious tones that he's hit, this kind of matches with everything. Because when he dies, the dove flies out of his hand and it kind of symbolizes him, his soul leaving his body. So I would think of having like a dove feather and kind of the title matching the texture of the feather. 14 is rebellion. We want life, the replicants. There's four that escape, and it's kind of like you can kind of see it in two ways where we want life can mean we want to experience life. We want to spend the rest of our lives not enslaved and actually doing what we want, like any other human. And then the second way you see it is we want life as in we want more life. We just don't want 4 years of living, you know, because that's one of the missions that the road replicants have is going to Dr. Tyrell and being like, yo, can you give us more life? And he's like, nope, can't do it. But just having it up there in graffiti, because a lot of people see that as a rebellious font, especially nowadays. So that's what I want to do with Rebellion. So there's a lot of symbolism, like I talked about before. But another thing, other than it being kind of seen as like surveillance, is the window to the soul. A lot of times, replicants, uh, they have a test that they use on replicants to see a portrayal of emotion. Replicants aren't supposed to have emotion. So this test that they have mainly focuses on a person's eyes. And replicants, they also have like this glare. When you shine a light at a certain angle, they have like a red glare. So I was thinking just having the Blade Runner in the eye with like that red glare coming from it. Number 16 would be a reflection of humans on the left side and replicants on the right, showing how like the deeper you go, it they they seem different, but as you go even deeper, it gets weirder. Because for like humans in this movie, they don't really act like humans. They look like humans. They are humans, but their psyches match more like robots, where they're cold and they just don't care. Where the replicants, they look like humans, and when they're getting shot at, you see blood and gore, but you also see metal, so it's kind of confusing. But then when you go deeper into like a psyche, you see that they're portraying more emotion than the humans in the movie. So I just wanted to show that kind of like that reflection of both sides in 16. So and number 17, I kind of did the same thing, kind of like just showing that parts match up, parts don't. Um, but with this, I kind of had like the humans be one font and the replicants be another font. And like I said, just filling in the title and just showing that there's parts that are similar, parts that are not. But at the same time, I think is also showing that humans and replicants at this point in the movie can kind of fill the same role of humanity. So that's what I want to go with for 17. 18, so for the blade, it starts off very rough, very jagged metal, and then it smooths out over time. I wanted to show Deckard, the main character. Like I said earlier, he, as one of the human characters, uh, he's he's very cold. He doesn't really show emotion that much. But over time, as he's interacting with these replicants and he's gaining these experiences over the time of the movie, he starts to show more emotion. He starts to become more and more human. So I wanted to just show that change in the title. Um, Identity. So one of the I guess you can call her one of the side replicants, not one of the four that Deckard is hunting. Uh, Rachel, she's actually the special replicant that was made by Dr. Tyrell, who who has these false memories implanted in her of Tyrell's niece. And so she has all of these experiences. She knows how to play the piano. She knows this and that. But halfway through the movie, it finally gets to her that she's not a human. She's a replicant. And she kind of has this crisis over her identity. And so I just wanted to replicate that. It's kind of like this whirlpool, this kind of like hectic mind of the title, showing just how crazy it would be to kind of have like your whole world flip like that. Number 20 is freedom. It's the opposite of, you remember what 11 was? It was the owl claws squeezing the title. This would be the opposite. It would be the dove. It would be like dove claws that is releasing the title, giving it freedom. So it's trying to go for an opposite feel, especially since the dove can more relate with the replicants, while the owl is more with the Tyrell Corporation. 21 is another corruption, especially with greed. So one thing I wanted to do was have all like the symbols and corporation symbols produce kind of like this wave or this ocean that is drowning the Blade Runner title. Just showing how overflowing all of this stuff is. 22 is myopia, which is pretty much lack of foresight. It's kind of like with the Frankenstein, but with this title, it's actually having hands crunch the title. So it's kind of like the opposite of the owl, where you have Tyrell keeping the replicants a slave. You kind of now have it where the scene where he dies, Roy Batty, he actually crushes his head. So it's kind of like the opposite of the owl, but it's pretty much showing Dr. Tyrell, he didn't put any more stops other than these 4 years that they live, even though these replicants, they're pretty much super powered, super intelligent, super strength robots. So you would think, they might want to come after you, so you might put more stops in, but he doesn't. And so he dies because, one of the things they wanted, the replicants wanted, was more life, and he can't do it. So they're like, why do we still need you living? So they kill him. Number 13, I kind of did humanity and kind of more religious tone. So I simply just made the title into like sort of a cross symbol. It's crazy just how much religious undertones are in this movie. So I just thought one of the simplest things to do was just make a cross out of the title. Um, Number 24, I had oppression, but this time I kind of did it a different type of way, and thinking of the replicants and how they could pretty much be human, but the only thing stopping them is pretty much their robotic parts. If they didn't have, you know, being created, they could pretty much be human. And so the cables are holding the Blade Runner back. So it's pretty much for the replicants, the only thing holding them back from truly being human, other, because they have the psyche, they have the look, is just what's inside and how they were created. 25, I have memories and I have runners stamped on top of Blade. Um, Sort of like how memories are stamped onto a replicant before they're eventually sent out to just do slave labor. How they pretty much get these memories just to be a stabilizer for their emotions. Sort of like a stamp of approval for something going out. So the last five I did, I kind of just went as far-fetched as I could. So number 26 is like the nature of Blade Runner and how it's a dystopia, it's a hellscape, it's very bad. So I kind of had the font be like this noxious gas that's lit aflame. Because whenever they do like sky shots in the movie, you see just these giant pipes with fire and all this smoke coming out. So that's what that's replicating. Number 27, more religious stuff. So I pretty much went with the full Garden of Eden apples. So apples are falling from the tree. One thing I was thinking is maybe kind of having the tree be like the Tyrell Corporation, and maybe like four apples falling in front of the title, meaning like the four rogue replicants in the movie. I don't know. Number 28 is more violence. This time having the owl replicant represent the Tyrell Corporation, and then having the dove. This is I tried to draw a dove. I failed epically. Um, the dove represents replicants, and so they're fighting one another, and this fight kind of overtakes the movie for a little bit. So having both of the animals, both of the birds, kind of like fight in front of the title. Number 29 is time. What I did for that one is kind of like how the replicants are running out of time because they only have these 4 years, and who knows how much of their 4 years they lost, especially with uh, with Roy Batty. At the end of the movie, he actually dies because he runs out of time. So they're all searching for something to kind of fill that void, either trying to experience life to the fullest or getting more life. And then number 30 is violence again, but this time kind of showing the difference in violence. Blade has gunshots in it, kind of bullet holes, especially where the B and the D is, kind of showing Deckard, he uses a gun. And then Runner is like twisted and maimed, showing how more cruel in violence that Roy Batty is. Also, the R is twisted backwards and kind of crunched in. And then the N is missing 2 parts because at the end of the movie, When it was Roy versus Deckard, Roy actually snaps two of Decker's fingers. So I thought having the two ends and bits of them missing could kind of go to that. So, but yeah, that's all my sketches.